Sing, goddess, for the anger. I have a confession to make. I've been reading a book called Wonderworks. It's the 25 most powerful inventions in the history of literature. And if you thought that I was a faux intellectual dipshit prior to reading this book, holy living fuck, hide under your desk. Because I am sipping my Earl Grey tea and feel like my brain is full of thousands of years of human knowledge. I know, it's terrible. So that is from that opening line is the opening line of the Iliad. How's that for lyric in-depth study, proper academia?
Is that who we're going to be on this one?
I'm putting glasses. I'm pushing them up on my nose even as we speak. I'm putting on my tweed jacket. I want to smoke a pipe while we're doing this sort of thing. Like I'm ready to. I'm going to jump into the deep end of the pool. I'm going to embrace what's most annoying about myself in the hopes that I can make it entertaining somewhere down the road.
Okay.
But I want to apologize to you and the listeners in advance because I understand that it could be very tiresome.
I think this is episode 69. I've known you for, I don't know, 16, 17 years. And the listeners have now known you for 69 episodes. I think if they're still in, they're in.
If they're fine with it, they're fine with it.
Yeah.
It's just you and me today, and we're doing a Patreon member episode. We're going to do a song by Erasure. Erasure is a band that I've always loved, but had to love in secret.
Oh, really? Because they were so openly gay?
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. I hate to admit it, but yeah, that's exactly it. They were just a little too foppish, a little too soft. I could never admit to it. I never bought an Erasure album. But I have all the, I love all the Erasure singles and everything like that. I would definitely turn it up in the car when it came on. I absolutely love Always. Always might be one of my favorite songs.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, they're one of those bands, like every time they would put out music that other bands were kind of getting past their prime. Like after Wish from The Cure, I didn't like Bloodflowers that much, but everything Erasure keeps putting out, it just stays good. They don't lose it. Yeah,
they're consistently awesome, and some of their melodies and some of their rhythms are literally like the rhythm of my heart sometimes. Like I can listen to Always and just get absolutely lost in it. Like that's the way I want to feel. I want to be as infatuated as that falsetto, if at all possible. I want to crawl inside that song and just go, okay, that's what I want my heart to feel like all the damn time.
Don't you find that Erasure, they're so different from other bands at that same time, like The Cure and the Smiths and stuff, that could get a little moody and people make fun of them for being a little whiny. But Erasure to me was, even when their songs maybe have a sad undertone, it's just happy music. It's joyful music. It's orchestral. It's Motown. It's R&B, and you dance. Like you're saying that you had to be shameful about it. Where I went to high school, super duper straight guys loved Erasure. You could dance to it. It was some of their favorite songs. Like, I don't know. I felt like Erasure was for everyone.
Yeah, I think just the place that I come from and the place that my mind was at when I was in an early teen, I just didn't have the confidence to fully embrace Erasure. I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry that I couldn't, but I was just it's not that I was brought up to think that those things were shameful. It was just that culturally, that's the message that you get, or the message that I got in the early 90s was that being gay was definitely shameful, and being accused of being gay or thought of as gay was a horrific thing to happen to a young man,
especially a young man like you who was so literary and in touch with his emotions already.
Yeah, right for the accusation. Like I felt very defensive about it, and I really regret that. Like I wish that I'd been stronger when I was younger, and not succumb to that sort of thinking. But I did, and I really hope that we're getting to a point where other young people of my sort of, or any young people just aren't faced with that anymore. Like I hope we're getting to that point. I'm not naive enough to think that we're there yet, but I do think that we're well on the way.
I think we're way more than baby steps. I think we're making leaps and bounds.
For sure. When I think back on the way that gay people were spoken about really publicly when I was just a low teenager, like 11 or 12 years old, the state that it's in now, like it's a sea change. It's a complete
Oh yeah.
reversal. Like I know I can't, sometimes I can't wrap my head around how much, I mean, and obviously like I'm a straight cisgendered white male, so maybe I'm thinking that things are better than they are because
Right.
I'm not, I'm not faced
You're not
with
in it.
yeah, I don't get the persecution that I'm sure that gay people still get today, especially younger gay people, but I do think that it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah. They'd
And
rather
that
be
gives me hope.
gay now than gay in maybe, I don't know, 1993,
For sure, for sure. And I didn't realize it until I started doing like real deep research on Erasure, like what a big part of that Andy Bell played. Like he was really he was really the first sort of like openly gay pop star, like really openly gay. Like Liberace was obviously gay, and I think
Right.
Elton John was sort of
Right.
obviously gay, but they sort of kept it to themselves. They played it close to the vest. George Michael was in the closet for years and years and years. But
Right.
Andy Bell, it just like nope. Like
He kicked
yeah, it was,
open those doors with those red pumps. And
yep.
he would wear those on stage with a tutu. It's just like, here I am.
Yeah, and I read it like it comes from a very natural sort of like male mindset that I can understand, where it's just like, look, I've been bullied for this, I've been pushed around for this, and I'm not going to take that anymore. Like this is who I am. You can deal with it. You deal with it however you want to deal with it. You can punch me, you can kick me, you can throw me down the stairs. I don't give a shit. This is who I am. Here we go. Listen to my melodies. And I just greatly admire that in him. Like it's just
great.
Absolutely fantastic. Like I couldn't. Let's jump into it. So we're doing one of the lesser known Erasure songs. Like I say, like I think Always is probably my favorite Erasure song. I know A Little Respect is yours, but our listener chose Phantom Bride, which is a song that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
And so this is my first brush with Phantom Bride was reading the lyrics, and I thought it was going to be like kind of a a mopey and depressing song. But so I read through the lyrics and thought, okay, this is going to be a kind of a heady and in deep episode. And then I listened to the song, and it's actually crazy uplifting.
Yeah.
Like we'll go into the lyrics and get into it, but I think there's a reason why it is. But let's just jump in. Let's just do it. Into the deep end.
Let's do it.
Phantom Bride by Erasure.
She was a shy girl from the lonely street. She had no job to do, no friends to meet. She'd sit in silence in her rented room, dream of her childhood and invented truths. And in her mind she'd drift away, a secret place to steal away.
She was a shy girl from the lonely street. She had no job to do and no friends to meet. She'd sit in silence in her rented room, dream of her childhood and invented truths. And in her mind, she'd drift away, a secret place to steal away. So we've got a lot of longing in this girl right now.
How old do you picture this girl?
Young. Like she's obviously she's old enough to have her own place. And it seems like she's happy about it, like she's reflecting on her childhood and everything like that. That first verse made me think of like sitting in my own apartment, like my own first place. It was just me, like no roommates, no girlfriend. Like the first place was just like, this is all my stuff.
Yeah.
And just sitting there, even though it was like a horrible dude apartment and it was my kind of horrible dude. So there's 2 guitars I don't know how to play. There's 500 books that I haven't read, but nevertheless like on display because I have to I have to pretend that I'm surrounded by all this knowledge. Classic, like mattress on the floor, no bed frame, no nothing.
No.
Bookshelves made of cinder blocks, just awful. But I just like I would sit in that living room and just feel like this immense pride. Like this is me.
I still consider that some of the best years of my life. That first place that I had on my own without a boyfriend. You remember that place on Hazard?
Yep.
That was my first place that I did not share with roommates or a boyfriend or anything. And I just remember thinking like, this is mine. No one has to tell me what to do, where to go. I could order a big block of cheese or get a big block of cheese from the grocery store, open my fridge, take one bite out of it and like leave little like human rat teeth scrapings down the cheese and just put it back in the fridge. No one's going to say shit to me. It's my place. I can eat pizza every day for dinner for a week and I don't have to answer to anybody. It was a great time in my life.
It's like we use that great freedom for just gross sloth.
Yeah.
I think everybody does it that way.
Yes. You
My
like
friend
roll
Craig was
around
always-
in it.
Yeah. My friend Craig, we would always go into like when we were younger, we would go into like people's first apartments, and his thing was just like, I'm gonna open your freezer, and I guarantee you that there is a tub of ice cream with a glaze of ice over the top of it that you started a month ago, and and it always was there. He was 100% right every single time. So she's a shy girl from the lonely street, which I like. I mean,
Yeah.
that's everything right there. She's shy, and there's no such thing as a lonely street. That's
Yeah.
just the sort of person that we're dealing with. She's
Yes.
isolated. She feels alone, and she's not doing anything to really kind of recover from that loneliness. She'd sit in silence in her rented room and dream of her childhood and invented truths.
That's a good
I like
line.
that too. Yeah, I do that too. Like I'll sit and I'll do that. I'll just invent. You know, like I'll know what the actual, like I'll be just like stewing on some problem, but
Yeah.
I'll invent the reasons why. Like I will come up with like, okay, and this is why that is. Like, no, you're way wrong. I was
Yeah.
well into my 30s before I realized that I was a negativity generator. You know, like I kind of wandered around like why is it always raining on me? It didn't occur to me until I was in my mid-30s. Just like, you do this to yourself, man. Like
Yep.
if you don't have a problem, you create one. That's just part of
Mhm.
your personality. It was weird thing to do.
So many of us do it too, until finally a therapist. It takes sometimes a therapist to tell you that you're doing it, and you're like, why do I do this to myself? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a bizarre thing to realize. And I've never been to therapy or to a therapist, but I've read a lot of books about it, and I've done, you know, like some work with people who aren't therapists but would like to be tarot card readers, witches and whatnot.
Me.
You. Gradually I'm starting to get a hang of it, but that was really kind of, I mean, there's been many kind of like where the blinders sort of come off your eyes moments, but that was the one that kind of really sort of stunned me late one night when because I was bartending, and there was some like dispute in the bar that I was sure I was right about, but I didn't handle it very well, and things turned ugly, and we ended up throwing like a whole great big group out. There was lots of yelling and screaming and locking doors and everything like that. And once we finally got everybody out, the situation was settled. Tulu, who we've had on the podcast, was bartending with me. Is just like, that's on you, man. Like, what are you talking about? Those guys were assholes. And he just goes, you think that would have happened to me? Like that's it. If I was handling that situation, I would have cooled that out. You didn't, because you're you. Like, you made the problem worse instead of making it better. I was just like, holy shit, yeah, you're right. That is exactly what happened. It was
weird. And you're not the kind of person that's like, fuck you, Tulu. Like you absorb it when people say stuff. You're like, oh.
When it's somebody I respect, you know, like if
Yeah.
it was somebody that I didn't have a good relationship with, then I probably would have been more adversarial and wouldn't have thought about it. But because it was coming from somebody that I like and that knows me pretty well, I was like, okay, maybe I think I should listen to this. I should open myself up to the world. Anyway, on to the chorus.
Don't you cry, don't you cry. Let me wipe away tears from your eyes.
Don't you cry, don't you cry. Let me wipe away the tears from your eyes. Don't you cry, don't you cry. Let me wipe away the tears from your eyes. So this lonely lady is being comforted, and not for nothing. She's being comforted by the voice of one of the most prominent gay pop stars around.
Yeah.
It's kind of what's fascinating to me about this song. And obviously in the next verse, it's the worm's going to turn a little bit. But this is a gay man consoling a straight woman, which is a fascinating thing to me. Like the idea of friendships across those sexual orientation boundaries are amazing to me. Like one of my best friends is a gay girl, and we have this wonderful friendship because neither of us wants anything from the other. You know, like it's settled emotionally. Like all we want is the friendship.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because when we first met, we were friends for a couple of months, and we went out, and she was fun to go to bars with when she was single, because she would just be like talking to all the attractive girls, but I don't know if you talked about this before, but she would just like intensely like look in their eyes, like looking for that flicker of interest. And if she didn't find it, that girl was over the side and on to the next one.
Yeah.
So she would have like a 5-minute like intense conversation. She'd be like, okay, that's great. You should talk to my friend Ben. Ben's a great guy.
I like her strategy.
Yeah, like, it was just fantastic. She was she wasn't even a wingman. Like, she was like the pilot fish. Like, she was she was the lead dog. I was her wingman. She was just like, okay, this girl's not interested in me at all. Get her out of my way.
You're just back there with a basket, like catching whatever she's throwing out. Got it. I'm gonna try.
got a rebound. Perfect. So we're having a night like that, and we're both getting like quite drunk. We were having a very, very good time. We get back to her house, no other women with us. It wasn't that successful an evening, but she's lost her keys. So like she can't get into her house, and she's
Yes,
like
you've told this
she's-
story.
have I?
Yes.
Oh my God, just the best thing in the world, because she ends up I'll just keep it brief. She ends up smashing out her own front windows, and we, really crawl in through those. The whole living room's an absolute mess. She's fallen down drunk, probably, blackouts. I'm just like, okay, I better be here in the morning. Otherwise she's going to wake up and like, what the hell happened? So I lay down next to her. We go to sleep. We wake up in the morning, and like she sees me, and her just like an absolute shock. Like, what have I done? Like, it's nothing like that.
No.
In fact, it's probably worse than you think.
I'm not your problem.
Yeah, yes. Oh, you got bigger problems to worry about.
It's a great
anyway,
relationship. It really is, because I think sometimes men and women want to have like a strong relationship with each other and not have sex mucking it up. And like, that's why girls and gay men and straight men and gay girls can have like, hey, let's find where, we can relate the opposite sexes without having sex,
Yeah, you can that friendship can start without getting past, like whatever initial attraction or whatever could be there. Like the complications are gone in a way. Now it becomes difficult because they're like lesbian, like I tend to put like the straight dynamics on lesbian relationships. Like I do the cisgender thing. We're just like, okay, well, who's the dude and who's the woman in this
Right.
relationship? And they're like, we're both women. Why is that so fucking hard for you to understand? Like, you're right.
Sorry.
Trying to get there. But yeah, that can you complicate things. But anyway, moving on with the song. He was a good boy from the upside of town. Oh, fuck.
Here he comes.
It's not a good thing. It's never a good thing when the good boy from the upside of town shows up.
Okay, I'll
I'm a
say
good
my
boy from the
lyric
upside of
says
town.
outside of town, but does it matter?
I don't think it does.
Okay.
No, I think either way, like well-intentioned dudes can cause a lot of problems. I know that because I think of myself as a well-intentioned dude, and I have caused a lot of goddamn problems.
Yeah.
Like just a lot. And it's almost always my good intentions that I can't or won't follow through on. That cause the trouble. Like it's I think every man is guilty of it, but it's empty promises. Like you want to be that guy, you want to be the loyal guy, you want to be the rock, you want to be the dependable dude, but you can't be that for everybody.
And then when a circumstance, like you think you want it, and then a circumstance happens where you have to be it, and you're like, wait, I don't know if I want this. That's where the song is about to lead us. For
sure. And it's a longer road too. Like I think of, the women that I've said, I love you to, or the women that I intended to, like, okay, this is what I want for the rest of my life. And then you realize that the rest of your life is a long time, and you can't, when you're younger, you make those promises and you don't really know what they mean. You don't understand how hard that they are. I think we talked about this before. Love's a lot of things. One of the things it is a decision.
Yeah.
Like you have to decide that I'm still going to do this today. It's not romantic. Like it doesn't fire up the heartstrings. Like it's a real, like sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and get on with it.
Yep.
Anyway, so here's this good boy from the upside of town here to fuck shit up. Said he could treat her right. Said he could win her round. All right, and then here we go. Her morning sickness and the kick inside, the phantom kisses of the phantom bride. So this is where babies come from, everybody.
This is what happens. And good boy didn't stick around.
No, they never do. So anyway, it's time for some highly effective rhetorical tactics. Sarcasm, condescension, and bitter invective. You and I live in Texas, and Texas, starting in September, is going to have a major change in our reproductive rights laws. Starting in September, it's going to be illegal for a woman to get an abortion 6 weeks after she becomes pregnant. As anyone who is a woman has read about a woman or knows anything at all, that means that really before a woman knows that she's pregnant, she won't be able to end that pregnancy.
And it doesn't matter if it's incest or rape. They had to include that. They don't care if it's incest
Precisely.
or rape.
And they did it in a very, very strange roundabout way where any Texan or any person who knows about an abortion after 6 weeks can sue, can basically prosecute anyone who helped that. They can prosecute the woman who got the abortion, the doctor who performed it, the cab driver who drove her there, the friend who drove her there, anyone who gave aid or comfort to a woman or a girl who is going to get an abortion can be prosecuted under this new Texas law, which is ridiculous to consider because women don't become pregnant by accident. If there is a woman who is pregnant and doesn't want to be, the only way she got that way is because at best a man lied to and manipulated her, and at worst raped her. Like, it's horrendous to, and you're talking about doing this to scared teenage girls. Like, that's like let's be honest, you know, the idea that a financially secure adult female who makes an irresponsible sexual decision and then gets married or and then gets pregnant and doesn't want to take responsibility for that child is a very, 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 very small percentage of the amount of abortions that get performed. The vast majority of them are performed on women who have been lied to, cheated on, or just straight up left. You know, just a guy who just like, okay, you're pregnant, I am getting the fuck out of here. Like, I would be able to wrap my head around laws like this if they were aimed at the men. You know, if there was a Texas law that said, okay, instead of prosecuting the doctor or the person who drove her to the abortion clinic, like, you prosecute the dude, you prosecute the guy who left. That would be evil and draconian in my mind, but it also would be morally sound. Like, the logic would sort of sticks a hell of a lot better than what this unbelievably inhuman horseshit does. And I'm sorry to keep to drive it into this, but this is, I mean, by happenstance, this is the song that we landed on, and we landed on it in this week. So
this week, yeah.
I
agree with everything you said, and it feels like Gilead for those who watch The Handmaid's Tale. Like, I cannot believe the intrusion of government on my rights. It's insane.
And when you think that it's not one life, but it's two lives, you know, it's the life of the woman who, by the way, like, how are you going to do it? You know, I have several close friends who are single mothers, and it's amazing. Like, I don't know how they do it. Like,
after I had Charlie, I mean, we had money, I had a husband, I had someone who was there for me, and I was like, I cannot fathom what a single mother is going through doing this. I was like, they should just be given $1 million. I mean, I can't fathom it. I would have lost my mind. I had a nervous breakdown and horrible the postpartum depression with everything I needed. Like, I can't fathom having to do it all by yourself on top of it. Anyway, God, we can talk about this for 5 hours.
Yeah, I'm not a parent. I'm an occasional babysitter and an uncle. You know, like, it's I can't imagine, like, how do you, like, daycare? Like, how do you even afford that? Like, I've worked with women who are, you know, like bartenders or servers, and they literally, like, on the nights where they have to have a babysitter, they're making nothing. Like, every dollar that they make just goes straight to the babysitter. So they've got this night that's just like a black hole. Like, I did this for nothing. You know, I'm not making anything off of this. It's crazy to think of, and we're just going to create a whole generation of more of that. You know, like,
what's going to happen, and unfortunately Texas is a large state, but they're just going to drive somewhere else to do it. They didn't accomplish anything but making them drive further. It was a waste of time.
Yeah, and why? And again, it's another thing. It's just like, that's none of your business. Like, so many of the cultural problems that we have in this country or the world in general is just like, just stay in your own lane. Like, mind
you
your
don't
own
want to get an
business.
abortion, don't get a fucking abortion. Get your mind out of my life. Like, that's so insanely controlling.
Like, who cares what that person is doing in their own house? It's not your concern. Stay the hell out of it.
If you don't like gay marriage, don't marry a gay person. If you don't like abortion, don't get an abortion. It's real simple.
Yeah, but understand that these are the people in your neighborhood, like, and you have to make room for it. You know, I think it's amazing to me.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then you get like that pushback, like, it's not my job to make you feel comfortable. Yeah, it is, actually. That's the job of a human being, is to make other human beings feel comfortable. That is your prime directive. That's what you're here to do.
Yeah,
Right.
well, there you're getting into altruism versus individualism, and that's
Mm.
brain chemistry, man. I've been doing a lot of
Mhm.
research on that. Some people are not chemically wired to give a shit about other people. And
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
same people that still want to control other people too.
I mean, I imagine it's both, that it's chemical and also cultural. Like we live in a society that rewards that sort of behavior. Like we reward the guy who's out there to deny everybody else. We reward the guy who's out there inflicting his opinions on other people. Like we see that as strength. We don't see it as bullying, which to me, I think it obviously is.
Yeah.
That is more or less all of the lyrics to the song. It goes on to the chorus again. Don't you cry, let me wipe away the tears from your eyes. Again, that's your job as a human being, is to comfort people who are in pain. Like your job, if you see, that's what I don't, these laws, like you see somebody who's already hurting and then you make it harder for them. Like that's just the definition of cruelty. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
understand.
none of
It's a
them are
horrific
walking
thing.
in. None of them are walking in to do it like, "Yay, I'm gonna get rid of a baby." Like this is a
Mhm.
horrible, hard decision they've had to make. Every girl I've known that's done it wasn't like, "Woo!"
Yeah.
And so to not give them a choice.
Mhm. This is like what we were talking about earlier. Like it's a self-generated opinion. It's a self-generated feeling that these people have. That there's like they think that there are these cruel, selfish women out there who are just fucking all day, and every time they get pregnant, it's just straight down to the abortomatic. Like that is not what happens.
The
It's
one-dimensional
not the world
thinking
we
on
live in.
that is so
Mm.
upsetting. It's these
Mhm.
people who's I'm sorry, you have a pea brain. It's this big. You can't think outside of like one thought that you have, and it's
Right.
frustrating.
I get so angry when I see like the abortion memes, on Facebook, where it's like Kermit the Frog sipping his tea, and it's like, oh, you want more control over your body? Seems like if you had control over your body, you wouldn't be in this predicament in the first place. Like, yeah, you're almost there. One more quarter turn, you dumb fuck.
Oh my God.
This woman lost control of her body. It was taken from her by a dude. Here's how babies are made. A man puts his penis inside her vagina and he wiggles it around until he has his little moment. And then he runs the fuck away from her. And she's left with a lifetime of woe for his 2 minutes of fun.
Mm-hmm. That's
the problem that we're trying to work on here. Like it drives me fucking up the wall. And it drives me crazy because I'm guilty of it, because I'm the guy in that situation. Like I've definitely lied and manipulated, women into doing what I wanted them to do. Thankfully, I've never been in a situation where hard decisions like that had to be made, but I've definitely taken advantage of people in ways that I wouldn't do now that I'm 40. But like I know that the kids are still gonna do it. Like it's not, we can't change it. Like you have to care about the women and you have to care about the child. And if you do, then that means that you have to allow for these decisions to be made. Anyway, I'm sorry. I think that's probably more than enough time to spend on that.
We knew the rant was coming, and I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna let the male do this rant, and I'm gonna sit back and listen.
I'm sorry to pound it in. I know everybody's dug in on whatever side they're on that one, but that's the side that I'm on. And
to close out that, I want to quote the show Veep, where her character says, "Oh, please, if men got pregnant, you could get an abortion at an ATM." And no truer words have ever been spoken.
That's absolutely true. And if men got periods, we'd all have a week off every month.
It's all right. It's all right. We're not done here.
No, let's get back into the fun stuff. So Andy Bell, this is one of my favorite things. Andy Bell got to star in a musical in England called Torsten the Bareback Saint.
What on earth is that?
It's just a great nickname. Torsten the Bareback Saint. Like he sounds like a Viking. He just sounds like a big, rough, bear, gay Viking. But Torsten the Bareback Saint, the character was described as, and this is wonderful, a semi-immortal polysexual sensualist.
Jesus.
Yep. I'm making a new business card. Ben Mowbray, semi-immortal polysexual sensualist. At your service. What can I do for you?
You got so many non-woke people and Diane going, what?
What does that even mean? And can you do it tonight? It's great. So Erasure came together sort of out of the, not out of the wreckage, but after a couple of different groups. Like Vincent Clarke is sort of he's the musical force behind Erasure. He's also the musical force behind early Depeche Mode. He
Yes.
wrote like 9 of the 10 songs on their first album, including Just Can't Get Enough.
Just Can't Get
The
Enough.
hit. Yep.
And
The
you
hit
can
that-
hear it. You can hear Vincent Clarke in that song because it's upbeat, it's happy, it makes you want to dance, just like all of Erasure songs, and you can hear it and Just Can't Get Enough.
He left the band sort of like of his own volition. He left Depeche Mode just as they were rocketing to the top. Like they were obviously on the skyrocket to success. And Vince Clarke went. In all of the interviews that I read, he didn't focus on any kind of animosity or any kind of fights. It wasn't like Dave Gahan's drug use wasn't like in high gear or anything like that. You'd think when bands break up, it's the old Simpsons thing, throw in the whiskey bottle, slag off.
Right.
And maybe it was, but Vince Clarke doesn't want to talk about that. Like he just in every interview that I read over the course of 30 years, he was just like, they were moving in a different direction than I wanted to go in. Like the hardest hitting quote that I could find from him was just like, they wanted to be a more performance driven band and I wanted to be a more musically driven band.
Oh wow.
That was the worst that I could. And he and Martin Gore of Depeche Mode later on collaborated, like I think 20 years later, on their own music together. And it turns out that they didn't know each other all that well. Like Depeche Mode was Martin Gore and Andy Fletcher, and then Dave Gahan and Vince Clarke kind of came in afterwards. So that was that duo was sort of the thing that was the glue that was holding Depeche Mode together. So while Martin Gore is like the musical genius behind Depeche Mode, it's almost like there wasn't room for a competing musical genius.
Exactly. Vincent Clarke is the musical genius behind Erasure, and Martin Gore is the musical. You can't have two musical geniuses trying to say which way the band is going to go.
Right. And so he just said, okay, fine, I can do this myself, which is a huge big roll of the dice. Like talk about betting on yourself. Like it's a miracle to think of every band flyer that you've ever seen. Like how many hundreds of thousands of people are out there just like, oh, I used to play in a band and it didn't work out. Like the idea that your band is going to get a major label signing, or you're going to get in Melody Maker or NME or something like that, and you're going to be on the road to success. To get off that bus right as it's leaving the station is an incredibly confident bet that guy was
super confident.
Yeah.
He had so much faith in himself and he knew what he was going to do. I don't think he doubted himself for a second.
And he exudes that. Like I was reading a story about how Erasure, Andy Bell and Vince Clarke are opening for David Bowie in Brazil. And Andy Bell is out and loud and proud and incredibly fabulous. This is in, I think, the early 90s. And the Brazilian crowd, like that South American machismo, was not having Andy Bell. It was really weird because they're there to see David Bowie.
Yeah, right. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, they'll have like David Bowie's like gender bending flirtations, but Andy Bell's like straight up the real deal Holyfield. No, not having it.
Yeah, so Bowie's showing you like maybe a nipple, where Andy Bell's like trench coat open.
Yeah. David Bowie's furtive glances. And Andy Bell's like, come to the bathroom with me. Like, no, it's like, it's a little off-putting. So apparently this Brazilian crowd is going just like absolutely ape shit. They're throwing stuff at Andy and they're yelling puta, puta, puta all over. And so they get off stage, and apparently like Vince Clarke just cooled it out, just like, oh no, you can go. And so Andy Bell said that's just the way that Vince Clarke is. He's just a world leveler. He goes, without Vince Clarke, I would have gone a doolally is the phrase. Without Vince Clarke, I would have gone doolally. Like that's a great word, vocabulary term. Write it down.
I don't even know how you're spelling. Dude lolly, doolally.
Doolally. The interview that I had was Doolally.
Okay.
Which I guess it just means a certain kind of crazy, I guess.
Yeah. All right.
But it's amazing, like the relationship, because you can see that, like in the interviews that I watched with Vince Clarke, like he's just a very understated, never raises his voice, never seems to get excited. Like he's just very much an even keel kind of guy. And then he is unbelievably comfortable. First, so okay, let's go back to the origin story. So Vince Clarke leaves Depeche Mode, and then he starts successively 2 other bands. He starts a band called Yazoo, which has a couple of big hits. And then that falls apart. And again, not acrimoniously, not angry or anything like that. Just like this isn't quite it. He moves on to yet another band called The Assembly, and they have a hit. Now, that's not enough for him. So he takes out an ad in Melody Maker, and he's looking for a vocalist. So here's a guy who's got 3 successful bands behind him now: Depeche Mode, The Assembly, and Yazoo. And then he takes his ad out, and this young gay kid, this young vocalist, Andy Bell, sees the ad, is already a huge big fan of Vince Clarke's music, and he sends in a tape, and Vince Clarke calls him up and has like an in-person audition. How nerve-wracking would that be?
Yeah.
Like to literally audition for your hero, like for the music that you've listened to in the bathroom, the music that's inspired you to go like, okay, this is what I want. That's got to be just terrifying.
Again, I think Andy Bell probably, like Vincent Clarke, and this is why they ended up working, also had confidence in himself. I mean, when you've got that falsetto, you're like, you got to hear me, you know?
Yeah. That's what's fascinating to me about these two, is the 2 different kinds of confidence. It's like, it's Vince Clarke's quiet self-assuredness and Andy Bell's just out loud and proud, you deal with me.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible to me that it comes from the same feeling inside of these 2 completely different characters, and they're so complimentary of each other. Like, you think after years together, it's just the 2 of them in the room, you think that there would be hints, you know, of like animosity or little bits of jealousy. Whose band is this really? Who's the person who's really driving it? But they're both so complimentary of each other. Like Vince Clarke says of Andy Bell, he's just like, the reason we get along is because there's no ego to that guy. Like, he just doesn't bring that into the room, which I guess probably starts because the relationship started off imbalanced.
Right.
Maybe that's the way it did. But you'd think that Andy Bell's goal would be to like make up that space over the years. You know, like get the job. Now, once you have some success, you'd want to get like on even footing. But apparently he never did that. And it was just like, okay, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
Which is, and we've talked about so many bad creative partnerships. It's really nice to see one that's just like, oh, and holy crap, you're still putting out albums.
Yeah. Well, it's also, you know, I think Vincent Clarke isn't gay, right? Am I right? And so it's kind of like that great relationship of like, there's no weird sexual tension going on. They never like, oh, are they dating? Like, it was always just platonic, almost introvert, doing the like work behind the machine and getting the extrovert out there to push the product.
Mm-hmm. And they don't like Andy Bell had a quote where he said that he thought that Erasure probably could have been a much bigger band if he hadn't been out. You know, if he'd played like oh, I'm the, you know, I'm just a cutesy string bean of a man, you know, sort of thing. Like, okay, we could have been bigger, but instead, you know, I became this gay icon, and Erasure was sort of thought of as a gay band. And Vince Clarke just immediately just goes, I don't know why Andy said that. That is absolutely not true.
He's like, I don't think so.
Like, our gay audience is absolutely core to our success. It's fundamental to it.
Okay, so I've loved Erasure my whole life and never gave 2 thoughts to why it's called Erasure. Or even what the word erasure meant. So, an hour ago, I was like, you know what? I should probably look up the definition. And the definition of the word erasure means the removal of writing, recorded material, or data. They said that, okay, so there's 2 things. They said that Vincent Clarke, they took their name from one of Andy Bell's favorite films, Eraserhead. But there's a myth that the name of the band came out because of a demo submitted on a tape that had been marked for erasure, as in to be erased.
I
like that one. I do too. I like the myth.
That is just cool. You're a graphic designer, so it's like it's E and E, right? So it's box letters on either end. Like, it looks good.
It just looks good.
Like, you want those sharp angular lines on the marquee, like Citizen Kane. No, it's got to be.
Yeah.
K sounds are good for comedy, and they also look good on the marquee.
Yes, very true. So I do want to talk about the album. So Virginia Jackson was the Patreon member whose name we drew last month, and she chose this song. But The Innocents, she said, was her favorite album, which the song was on. And on this album was also A Little Respect, which is my all-time favorite Erasure song. But I want to talk about the album real quick. There was a great article on billboard.com, and it was called The Innocents and Motown Influence. Erasure looks back on R&B influenced synth pop classic, The Innocents, and its 30th anniversary. This is an article from 2018. And it really talks about, well, you know, they do a interview with the band. And I never thought about this or realized it growing up listening to this album, how influenced Andy Bell was from Motown. He loved Motown music. And I don't think about Erasure and R&B and Motown together. This to me was very gay 80s new wave club synth music. But then I started reading about it and it really made sense. Like he is very bluesy and R&B, and you hear it actually a lot in when you said Vincent Clarke was in a band called Yazoo, which you also call Yaz, with Alison Moyet. There's a song called Midnight. And to me, it is like, I can't believe it's not a Black woman singing this song. Like it's so bluesy and so rich. Like I'll play a little clip of it.
Darling, you know, it looks fine. Just lost the best thing that I ever had. Well, still I don't know why I did it wrong. It's too late now, he's gone to say, said, baby, I know you leave me now. Said, think about it, please. I love you and I need you, and I should have thought of that. Oh, I did you wrong.
But when you go back and listen to The Innocents, the whole album, and think of it as being influenced by R&B, you're like, oh my God, I hear it.
It's amazing. Like I always could be a Diana Ross song, like for sure. Like, it definitely sounds that way to me. Like or Whitney Houston could definitely hit those. I mean, not just the high notes, but also like hit the feeling of it, kind of.
They were huge fans of Phil Spector, which we've talked about doing a Phil Spector episode just to get the women who love true crime in on it.
It's in the works. But
they said the Innocents, however, they did a song on it. It was a uplifting cover of Phil Spector's produced Ike and Tina Turner song River Deep Mountain High, which I totally forgot that they did that song, and it's so good on this album. Anyway, I don't know, do we want to go into the lyrics of A Little Respect, or do you just...
Sure.
Okay, I do want to say one thing that I thought was great. We've talked about Andy being so openly gay. So it says, Andy Bell was one of the first openly gay pop stars, and according to Spin magazine in February 1989, he would sometimes introduce this song on stage by saying, when I was a little girl, I asked my mummy, can I be gay when I grow up? And she replied, yes, if you show a little respect, which is a great answer.
It really is.
I was like, well, go mom, go mummy.
No kidding. That's got to be an amazing moment, like as a parent. Again, I'm not a parent, but when you actually when you hit a home run like that, you know, when your child comes to you with a difficult question, you're just like, I've been waiting for this one.
I nailed it. He can be who he wants to be, but show a little respect. And I think he does. He's always been, to me, Andy Bell's just always been like, he's not like an activist, just openly super happy with who he is.
It's self-respect, you know, like that cuts both ways, and just give a little respect. It's just like, well, you respect others, but you got to respect yourself first.
I have to say, in 2015, Erasure came through town, and Corbin had just gotten his DeLorean, which is no longer with us due to Hurricane Harvey. It flooded. But we had a DeLorean, and for my birthday, Erasure came on my birthday, and he took me to see Erasure, and we went in the DeLorean. So when we pulled up to valet, they're like, oh, you're parking this right in front of the venue. So Corbin at the time, he was like, I don't think I like Erasure, but Diane loves them, so let's go. And Corbin to this day is like, that was one of the most exciting concerts I've ever been to. And he didn't realize, like, every song that played, he's like, oh, I know this song. They were so big in the 90s. They were top 40 everywhere. And he's like, oh, I know this song. I love this song. I know this song. So now he loves Erasure. A Little Respect is one of his favorite songs. But after the concert, we went out and people were standing around the DeLorean freaking out. So we were like, all right. So we opened up the doors And we had a line of every single person leaving the concert one by one, taking pictures inside the car.
For sure. Yeah.
It was great. It was a gregreat moment. We just like, all right, we'll just be here until you guys are done.
That's your job as a human being. You comfort them and you give them joy where possible.
Yeah, you give.
So
All right. I'll read the lyrics to this. We can
do
just
it.
go through it a little fast, but this song is just toe tappy from the first beat that kicks in. It's just such a happy song. And then it says, I tried to discover a little something to make me sweeter.
I try to discover a little something to make me sweeter. Oh, baby, refrain from breaking my heart. I'm so in love with you.
Oh, baby, refrain from breaking my heart. I'm so in love with you. I love the way he sings. Just that line, it feels so heartfelt every time where he's just like, I'm so in love with you. It's so, it almost sounds like he's crying as he says it, but in a happy way. I'll be forever blue, that you give me no reason. Why you making me work so hard? That you give me no, that you give me no, that you give me no soul. I hear you calling. Oh, baby, please give a little respect to me.
Yes.
He's in love with the dude, and we're gonna see. I think the dude, I don't know if he's forsaking his lover just because he doesn't love him, or I don't know. We should get into it. I don't know if the guy's struggling with being gay. I've always wondered if this song is like he's in love with a guy who's struggling about being gay himself. Okay. Oh, baby, please. That you give me no soul. Oh, baby, please give a little respect to me. And if I should falter, would you open your arms out to me? We can make love, not war, and live in peace with our hearts. And then he says, I'm so in love with you. I'll be forever blue. What religion or reason could drive a man to forsake his lover? So is this guy having like a religious struggle with being gay? Is that what's happening here?
I think so. Or like, I mean, that seems to be the root of homophobia, is this idea that it's a moral outlier or a moral failing. Is I mean, every gay hating person that I've ever talked to seems to circle back to that,
Yeah.
at some point, whether they're straight up hateful, like we should round up all the gays, or whether they're, just hateful to the point where it's just like, okay, well, you need to fix that. Like you need to go get some gay conversion therapy. It would probably help if you went to go talk to the pastor.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's like people who are like can't see, they're so one-dimensional, they couldn't see past themselves. Like, well, I'm not gay. I don't have feelings for my own sex. So it must be wrong. I can't fathom that someone else would feel differently than me. And so they know they can't just say that. So they're like, and I don't even think it's true, but they're like, the Bible says no. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, here we go.
Yeah, that's usually the conversation ender is when you ask them, it's like, well, is your sexuality a choice? Like, do you choose to be attracted to women? Like, well, no, I just am. Okay.
Okay then. My God. So religion or reason, and then he's like, oh baby, please, I hear you calling. It's all the same line. This song is way more fun for being danceable and not so much the lyrics, but it's just a guy like, why are you making me work so hard for this love? Give me a little respect, give in to me.
Yeah.
And then it's just toe tappy and dancing while he's singing. Just give me a little respect.
Yes.
It's great. It's one of my favorite songs.
It's a lovely tune. It's a lovely tune. They make great music.
They really do. Let's see. I wanted to read a little bit of okay, so this is from Andy Bell, and they're talking about The Innocents. So The Innocents was the crossover success in America. I mean, they had some success over in the UK, but there were two songs off this album that blew up in America, and it was Chains of Love, which went to number 12 on the Hot 100, and A Little Respect went to number 14. And Bell says, we had no idea. We were just grateful. We had done some shows in America already, and by the time The Innocents came out, everything just kind of went ballistic, and we ran with it. So it blew up in clubs. But when he's talking about his influence, he said, that was some of my favorite music growing up, those Motown records. We had a collection at home when I was growing up of Phil Spector, I loved. My mom was a huge Elvis fan, and my dad was a Buddy Holly fan. I said atop all of this music, but Motown was one of my absolute favorites. Then he goes into talking about why they did River Deep, Mountain High. I just always find that fascinating. Like, you know, someone in the UK is just obsessed with Elvis and Buddy Holly and Motown. I forget our influence, you know. I'm just like, oh, people, other countries have their own thing, but and then, you know, and then the Beatles came here and we went nuts for the Beatles, but I forget, like, it's crazy to me. Like, I don't know why it's crazy, but thinking of someone sitting over there just being a deep Buddy Holly fan.
Yeah, that's the fun part about music, is I think more than any other art form, like that's the way that we kind of we sort of share and feed off one another's feelings.
Yeah.
You know, like you say that, you know, we fell in love with the Beatles, and the Beatles had such an influence on American music, but obviously like their influence was American music to start with. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it's a cycle. It feeds off of each other. You know,
Yeah.
for as influential as the Beatles are, I'm sure they're like, well, we can't be the most influential band because we were influenced by these guys.
Yeah.
Like by definition, that guy must be more influential than we are. You know?
Right.
But it's an avalanche. It's a snowball.
It's really cool. It's really cool that way. So I'm going to do this because Virginia Jackson, the girl who chose this, our Patreon member, thank you. She wrote a little thing about what erasure means to her, and I wanted to read it. Let's see. I discovered Erasure in 9th grade and I immediately fell in love. Super love Andy's voice and the joy of Vince's sync. I slowly collected all of their albums on cassette tape. I didn't watch much MTV, so I never saw a video and really didn't have any behind the music info on them. Where were you, Google? I just love them purely for their music. The way Vince builds up a song with his synth sounds is genius. That and the lyrics really spoke to me about heartbreak and acceptance. I didn't really know how much Erasure meant to the LGBTQ community until I finally got to see them in concert in 2014. So she was a fan her whole life and didn't see them until 2014. I was up front center stage with my husband and brother and best friend. It was the perfect convert experience. And oh, how I love to see Andy dance. Oh, God, Andy, you got to watch Andy dance. I bet Erasure saved countless LGBTQ lives with their music, and that makes me love them even more. I saw many happy tears at their concert and even spoke to a young man who drove 8 hours to attend their concert because they meant so much to him. And yeah, I think like Erasure is one of the most celebrated bands in, you know, in the gay community. Although like two of my like best gay friends in my life aren't Erasure fans, and I'm like, how? Like, how is that possible? One of them, he's just too young to know them, but you know, my friend Toby, like, he just wasn't that into them, and I'm like, he liked Journey. His favorite band was Journey. I'm like, you're the most confusing gay dude I've ever met.
That makes sense. Like, I can totally see this. Like, just because I'm gay doesn't mean I have to love every single gay artist.
Yeah.
You know, there are plenty of white Canadian artists, and it's like, oh, okay, no, just please, you're embarrassing the brand.
I do want to give a shout out to a couple Instagram pages for Virginia because she does amazing work. So it's Pachu, like she said, it's like the sound a gun makes, like Pachu, which I don't know if that's Pachu or Pachu. I'll put it in the episode notes. Pachewdesign on Instagram. She does these hand embroidered artwork on like pillows and pillowcases and songs. So she'll do like a band and then the lyrics. So she's done a lot of the songs we've covered. So she does this embroidery work. Like there's one of David Bowie and it's Space Oddity, and then has like the lyrics embroidered out, and they're really cool and you can purchase it. She's also in a band called Honey Punch, and it's HoneyPunchBand on Instagram. It's a wonderful little band of women playing, they all play the ukulele. And former guest Michelle Soto, who is in Blushing, that's where I met all of these girls. Michelle like started her music career in this band, and they play these cute little ukulele shows. And it's just adorable. So anyway,
Honey Punch is a great name for a band.
Isn't it great? They used to be the ukuleles, and then I think there was another ukuleles out there. So I don't know if that's when or why they changed it, but Honey Punch is great. So I'll put all that in the episode notes so you can go follow Virginia and follow her Instagram pages because it's really cool.
Do it.
All right. Do you want to see how comedian Jeremy Essig connected Erasure to Tommy Stinson?
Yes, I do.
Let's do it.
Hey friends, welcome to a very quick edition of 6 Degrees, where this week we're going to connect Tommy Stinson to the band Erasure. And since I'm sure there's a Depeche Mode edition somewhere in our future, I'm going to leave Vince Clarke out for now and instead focus on the career of Andy Bell, whose 2010 solo album, Nonstop, featured vocals from Jane's Addiction's Perry Farrell on the song Honey, If You Love Him, That's All That Matters. In addition to creating Lollapalooza, Farrell's had a long career of collaborating with other artists, including a very, very strange supergroup, Satellite Party, that started as a collaboration between Farrell and extreme guitarist Nuno Bettencourt. Farrell would soldier on with the group after Bettencourt's departure in 2007, featuring musicians such as Flea, New Order's Peter Hook, and Silvertide guitarist Nick Perry. Perry would also play with cult drummer Matt Sorum, who's probably best known as the replacement for Steven Adler in Guns N' Roses, a band whose rhythm section would eventually feature bass from Tommy Stinson. So Erasure to Jane's Addiction, to the Cult, to Guns N' Roses, to Tommy Stinson. See y'all next week in Houston. Back to Diane and Ben.
I like that. I was like, I love all those bands. That was a great line of connections there.
Perfect. Well
Um,
done, Jeremy. Thank you.
As always. So again, we don't have a dressed up like a douche this week. We got to get our listeners telling us their misheard song lyrics, or this segment's gonna go away. Which would be sad, but I get it. Some people are embarrassed. Can you hear me? Okay, hold on. I can't hear you. Let me. Okay, no, there you are. I can hear you. All right.
I'm here.
Guess what it's time to do?
Oh, time to pick another one.
Yep, we're gonna draw a name from our Patreon members and draw for June and see who gets to pick a song next month. I got all these in here. Who's it gonna be?
The trumpets blare.
Charlie Gallagher, my father-in-law. He's been asking me like every day. He's like, "When are you gonna draw my name?" And I was like, "Well, that's not how it works. It's not planned." So Corbin Gallagher, I'm sorry, it's not your week. It's going to be Charlie Gallagher. And we've talked about some songs he's talking about doing. So I may have a clue of what we're going to do next month. So, all right. That's exciting. Next week, Jeremy Essig will be in town. He will be at this table hooking up all my new equipment. And just so happens, Ben will not be.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Jeremy's like, that's cool. I bought a plane ticket and everything, but no, it's gonna be fine. We actually talked Jeremy into doing Epic by Faith No More. Corbin wanted to do it, and I was like, all right, well, Ben's gonna be out of town now, so Corbin, you have to sit in Ben's chair. And so me, Corbin Gallagher, and Jeremy Essig are gonna sit down and do Epic by Faith No More, which I love Mike Patton. Are you a Mike Patton fan?
I don't know much about him. I'm sure I would become one over the course of doing the research. I'm sorry, I'm gonna miss this. I feel bad.
It's okay. It's okay. You and your lady, you fucked off all of pandemic and didn't go anywhere, take any vacations, and now she has to go back to work. And she's like, we got to go somewhere.
It's time to go now. All right, we're going now. Pack
All
your
right.
bags. We sail tonight.
All right, this is a great one. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you, Virginia. And
Oh.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher, music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees of Tommy Stinson and to Sara Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.